Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. This is episode number 11 of our weekly shows. This is impressive that we've got to 11. I am your host today, Ben, and with me my illustrious co-hosts. I have Cameron over there on my left.
What is it?
And I have Rob down there underneath me.
Well, howdy there.
And
we were all doing weird accents there, so I decided to steer into it.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, welcome to Experience Kills, where we do quite often weird accents. So this is another episode. We've got the news to get through. We've got some games to talk about. We've got a fun little topic we scrabbled together. Please, by all means, if you guys have any ideas or suggestions or things you'd like us to cover on the podcast, do suggest them, because I'm not going to lie, I am definitely starting to run out of ideas. And it's getting harder and harder each time to come up with these between the lot of us. And it's just like, scrabbling together to try and come up with something that's kind of relevant to what's going on and also different, and we haven't already covered it in another way. It's a challenge. So by all means, make our lives easier. That's what I'm saying. If you could do that, that would be great.
Ben just doesn't want to do any work. That's the key point there.
If possible, ever. I'd love to not. That would be great. At the top, though, I just want to mention something huge. We did it, guys. We hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah,
so good. It's just a nice milestone to hit. We don't obviously do this for like monetization reasons or Patreon or anything like that. We just do it because we enjoy video games. And we like to talk about it as four white dudes who are getting on a bit. But that's why we're here. So Rob's like, I'm not getting on a bit. I'm still young. Yeah,
on a bit. You cheeky bastard.
You're old at heart, mate. That's why.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
That's the cholesterol.
But yeah, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you very much for all the subscribers that we've got. We really appreciate that. Keep on coming. We're going to have one more show before the end of the year next week, and I think we'll do some kind of competition for that then, because I did say at around 1,000 we would do a competition to sort of celebrate that, and I think we'll do that with Richard next week, because
Ben also just wants another week as an excuse to talk about Cyberpunk.
Well, there's no way we were going to finish the year out without a podcast focused on Cyberpunk, and thank you for bringing that up, because it's lucky that this isn't just me sitting here, Rob, going, Cyberpunk, it's less than a week, Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk. You're very lucky that that's not all you're getting out of me, to be honest.
Just because you have it preloaded.
I love the fact that it's already loaded on your console waiting to be played, and yet you can't play it.
Oh, just sat there looking at me on both my Xboxes, teasing me right now.
Yeah.
Also on the Xbox, themed around Cyberpunk, that it's not on, that you'll never play Cyberpunk on the Cyberpunk Xbox.
That console is now plugged in my bedroom, actually. So I do have a third Xbox hooked up. So I might play some Cyberpunk on that console. I don't know. I mean, it's only on a 1080p screen. So I've obviously got a new monitor in my office, 1440 res. I've got my 4K downstairs. So I don't know if I want to play it on the ghetto setup, but I don't know.
Saying the other week that not everyone has 4K and 1080p is a more kind of commonplace output. So, do we need the heightened tech? And now you're going, oh well, yeah, I don't want to play on the fucking plebs console or the plebs resolution.
Well, I don't remember ever saying quite like that. And I do think there is definitely a benefit to the high resolutions and the powerful machines if you're into that stuff, But if you're looking for an entry level, then yeah, okay, I guess don't worry about it. But if you're going to be ghetto. Just accept that fact. That's fine. I'm not elitist or anything, guys. How's everybody been? How's good week? Good couple of weeks, Cam. Good week, Rob. Play many games. How's things?
After you, but
it's been quite a quiet gaming week for me, actually. I've had some time away from Destiny, which has been taken up with life, unfortunately, rather than other games. Been playing a bit of the new DLC for Total Warhammer 2, which I'll mention briefly a little bit later if Ben permits me to. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of that. That came out on Thursday, and yeah.
Well, I've definitely got more time for you to talk about Warhammer than Cameron's suggestion of the topic being about VR, because I just
I backed that topic.
I know you did. I quietly just ignored it for as long as possible.
We noticed.
Yeah. I mean, Cameron's coming up with ideas though, Rob. So I can't fault him for that. Whereas I don't know. What did we get out of you, mate? Nothing. So how are you doing, Cam?
Doing all right. I had a few new games come in here or there with like downloadable on like PlayStation Now. So I've been going back to a few things. I was playing The Surge 2, which we'll talk about a bit later on. That I've been really enjoying. But I also had it when it came out on the Xbox Game Pass, and I was playing it on my PC. So I was kind of stunned at how quickly I was managed to catch up because I knew exactly where I was going again, and how getting back into the groove of like the parrying and stuff that Surge 2 has in its combat was surprisingly easy to get back into. I'm likely to finish the Surge 2 compared to Sekiro because I've been trying to kill the last boss of Sekiro for the last year, I think, and I still can't kill the bastard.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll come around to all of that again, I think. But let's get into the news. There's a fair bit of it here. There's some good stories here, actually. There's some interesting stuff that's happened this week. Normally we get into December. Sorry,
there's some good stories, and there are some nightmarish stories. One in particular makes me quite annoyed, which we will get to later on.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, probably.
So
but
just,
first one,
yeah, go for it, because I might not be as connected to this as say Cam is. So you guys start on these, yeah.
One, people are using their Xbox Series X's and S's to play PS2 games. I love it.
Incredible.
I love it. I want to do it. I really do. Like, the first console that hooks up to a TV that I ever owned was a PlayStation 2. So this hits me right in the hype. It really does. I want to look into how to do this and how to get this set up, because I will buy PS2 games and I will play them on an Xbox. I don't even care.
No, I mean, I'm not exactly going to rush out into the shops to buy an Xbox just so I can play my old PS2 games. That would be a bit ludicrous. But it's funny. It has that kind of what's it called? You have to go into the developer mode, and there's like a software that you can install, I guess. Which is incredible. And there's some upscaling as well. That's been actually happening for some of the old PS2 games as well. What was it? They said it was the PS2 version of Silent Hill 2 apparently looks nicer than the one in the Silent Hill HD collection on PS3 and Xbox 360, which is hilarious.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Oh man, that would be awesome. I mean, the annoying thing is obviously we have no real backward compatibility since like the PS3 and the PlayStation route. PS4, obviously the PlayStation Now, they have PS2 games in the PS Now collection, which is kind of cool. And obviously PS5, there's a way you can play some PS4 games in a way. But I think a lot of people are kind of missing like the old school games, and I can't wait around forever for remasters to come out on the new generation of consoles.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing.
Still fanboying over everything Bluepoint has done to this point, but they can't do everything for me.
They can't do the whole back catalogue, no.
Yeah, I'll get to it.
it's a weird area, the whole emulation stuff, because an emulator isn't inherently illegal. It's the downloading of the ROMs and the CD rips that, if you don't own the product, is where you're getting into illegal territory, because that's piracy. And like you mentioned, it's not as easy as just downloading a bit of software onto your Xbox. You do need to be in developer mode, which basically disables a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's like you're not going to be able to play retail games in developer mode. So it's a case of a hell of a commitment to playing some old PS2 games, if that's what you want to do, though. I mean, I think it's cool that it's possible. Obviously, it can never be officially supported for very many legal reasons from a Microsoft perspective.
Just one or two.
But at the end of the day, these things are computers, so I'm not surprised it can do this. It's probably a little bit easier than I thought it would be to do it. But, emulation has been a thing. I remember on my computer back when I was like 16, running an emulator to play Pokemon Red, because everybody was talking about Pokemon and I didn't have a Game Boy at that time, and it was a case of I want to find out what like Pokemon's all about, and then I was like, I played it for a couple of hours and went, not for me, but I'm glad I tried it.
I had a Game Boy emulator on my phone, so I was playing the original like Pokemon games on my phone, and that was fun.
I do now. I've got a Game Boy Advance emulator and a legally acquired copy of Emerald. That I have been.
I like how you had to preface that. Yes, this was legally. I did this completely legit. It's fine. Don't question it.
It's that grey area. Well, it's not. I'm probably
If you
gonna stop
own it,
talking
if you own the game, it's still grey because of where you might be acquiring the ROM. However, you're probably more legally okay because you have purchased it. So it's weird. I don't know anybody that's ever got in trouble for it, but like
it's something I think I'm still just gonna about.
Yeah, don't
for
say your
putting this
address.
on the internet.
yeah, fucking good point.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
have to cut
but
that.
it's cool.
Cut that.
It's cool. Yeah, well, I don't do editing, Cameron. Come on. Let's move on to the next story. So already the Series X and S have had a firmware or OS update. It didn't bring a great deal. We've got a few more dynamic themes. Rob, did you have a little play around and look at your dynamic themes?
I haven't. My Xbox hasn't been turned on in about 4 days.
That's very upsetting, Rob.
Yeah,
I did,
Me
and
too.
I picked a different theme. There's a few more options now, which is nice. Which is fine. I think there's a lot more they can do with the themes, considering PS4 had loads of cool themes the last generation, like some of the really cool game tie-in stuff that would often be like, oh, you pre-ordered the fancy digital edition, here's your sexy theme to go with it and stuff like that. Ghost of Tsushima recently gave me some really nice themes for pre-ordering that and stuff. I'd love to see Xbox do something similar. However, the way they utilize their screen real estate basically means you can't see anything. So it's not really that helpful, I suppose. It's very rare for you to actually be able to get a full shot of that background. So I mean, what would be the point of putting the time in to make something nice? So I'm not sure if that's really worth it. But
I've never even been on the themes that I have on my PlayStation. I just it's like I'm using it for a function. I'm not here to prettify the background. It's like my mobile phone, like the wallpaper on my phone. It's been the same thing for the last 2 years, which is just.
I think you're just really boring, Cameron.
It's just the man who can't come up with any other ideas for our podcast.
Oh, let's talk about VR for the sixth time. Yeah. Anyway.
See, the theme or the background I had on my Xbox One X was the achievement art for completing. It was one of the Halo games on Legendary Solo because I'd managed it. So I was like, well, I'm fucking immortalizing that because I'm unlikely to do that again. It was Halo 5. I managed to do it solo because you had obviously the team of Spartans with you. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed having that art rather than the default stuff.
I really like the ability to put achievement art on the background. However, not enough games produce good achievement art. Now that achievements are obviously on Steam and all these other platforms, it's almost like they just chuck out the most generic low effort icon because they can't be bothered to do anything nicer. I think what you see on Microsoft is that the first party games will sometimes have better achievements art sort of options, but for the most part it's garbage. I mean, one of the ones that was pretty good recently was Marvel's Avengers. That's got some decent achievement art. But the Halo ones definitely stand out as being incredible because they're all just concept art for the most part, and they look incredible. But for them, it's quite rare now, I've noticed, and it's unfortunate. Gears of War, again, first party, that's got nice achievement art, but I think that's really cool that you can do that. I just wish more people made nice achievement art. It'd be nice, in 4K, and stuff, really nice stuff. But obviously, you got a limited space. At least you did on a disc. You had to worry about the limited space. Now obviously that's less of an issue because of most games being predominantly digitally distributed as a primary platform. So I don't know, we'll see. It's basically, the news story is that they're already putting out updates to the OS, so that's kind of cool. So what about this Scalper group? Now, who was it? Was it you, Rob, that told me your friend got one from Very?
No, it was James at work.
Yeah, it was somebody, wasn't it, who actually mentioned that they got this pre-order and then he was one of the legitimate people that got one pre-ordered from this retailer in the UK, Very, and then had his orders cancelled. It turns out, well, if you believe what Very says anyway, it turns out this was some kind of glitch. They didn't actually have stock available. So when all these scalpers took advantage of it and got 1,000 Xbox Series X pre-orders, they got cancelled. They lost out. Now, some people are saying, well, this was them countering the scalpers, or Very's official word is that it was just an error. Oops, sorry. Once again, another retailer has effed up these console orderings, online, which does seem to be the overriding story of this release of this generation, which has just been one clusterfuck after another when it comes to people actually picking up these consoles. But I'm glad at the end of the day that the Scalpers did not get their hands on it, because it's seemingly a news story about these Scalpers comes out almost every other day now, and about how they're taking advantage of it, how they got, how they broke the system to get it from here, or that PlayStation's there, or Xbox is from there. I have various alerts set up on my Twitter account and stuff to tell me about PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, because that's the one I want, and I never get there quick enough to even have an option. Never even get there quick enough. It's always gone. It could be a minute later, it could be 10 seconds later, and I'll never get there. So some obviously bots are being used, and before you even have a chance as a regular consumer, it's gone, and it sucks. This sucks.
It really does. I think this is the point where we should probably skip a couple of stories to probably the one that Cam is right that I'm annoyed by, because this is borderline scalping. With CEX selling PlayStation 5s. Sorry, of course, it is officially the sex shop.
It is called sex, yeah, that's how they say it. Yeah. It's weird, but true.
Yep. They are charging for a PlayStation 5 £815. They can do one.
Absolute
filth. When you've got a high street retailer basically acting like a scalper, that's kind of scum, isn't it? I mean, what it is it tells you exactly what these guys are. They're pawnbrokers, right? They always have been, and they always will be. They might try and dress it up as, we're a pillar of the community, we're retail, They're not, though. They don't get any of their stock through like normal channels, through supply, through the suppliers, through Microsoft, through PlayStation, and Sony. The only way they get stock is if people bring it into them, right? And this price of 815 is indicative of the fact that they were offering over £100 over RRP to anybody who brought in one of these consoles brand new. So you've gone into game, you've got your pre-order, you spent your 400 odd on it, and then you can go next door to CEX and get £100 on back in cash. In addition to that, they're basically paying for the stock, because they know they're going to then jack the price up. It's gross, and you should not support it. However, this is their business model. This has always been their business model. I've never liked them for reasons like this, and the fact that it attracts. You ever walk into one of these sex shops and you see it's just full of criminals. Like, it's never great.
Well, that is a bit of a broad generalisation there.
Well, I have practical experience with the encouragement of the criminal element in CEX due to my previous job, and how my previous job was targeted in an organised manner by shoplifters that had been arranged to target nearby retailers by a manager in the sex shop. So they are scum. Like, so I really can't stress enough that they are a pretty horrible retailer. And obviously there's lots of people that work for them that are passionate about games and films and stuff, and that they're just good people looking for work. I've hired people like that myself from sex shops, so I have no issue against them. But there was an institutional level of either kind of turning a blind eye or actively enabling the criminal elements to help them, because there was an incentive at the management level. That's how they would make targets. That's how they would make their money and their bonuses, based on the stock coming in and the turnaround. So they're incentivized to encourage and to turn a blind eye and to ignore the fact that, the guy that comes in with 20 brand new iPhones on the day of release, something dodgy's going on there. But they'd never look closer. You know what I mean? They never look closer. So it's it's grim. And the fact is, I'd had conversations with the local constabulary around this, and they all just they look at me like, a sex shop come into your high street is bad news, and they know that, and it's just, and they all know that it will cause problems in this area. It's a known fact, but the problem is there's very little they can do about it. It's only case by case, and they can never prove any of this stuff.
So long story short, this is like one of the few times that I've walked into a sex shop and get fucked at the same time.
Yes.
Hey!
Certainly get your money's worth, Cam. Yeah, that's sex. Yeah.
Suddenly, I'm even happier that I tend to boycott them where possible.
I've never, don't think I've ever bought anything from one, but I've always gone in there and looked around and looked in the stock, looked in those weird glass cabinets full of all kinds of random tat and electronics at ridiculous prices and stuff, and look at the clientele, and you just like, oh man, I don't know, I just never felt comfortable in them. They all just feel really gross, and to me, I'd much rather that all the CEXs, the sex shops, disappeared and were replaced by, say, indie game shops or DVD shops or something like that. You know, independence. It's like this sort of huge. It's taking advantage of people. That's all they do. Is they take advantage of people, and it's just kind of grim. Like, they're just grim places. The desperate people who are, you know, need cash quick for various reasons, right? They get taken advantage of because they never get a fair whack. And then the consumer coming in to buy that stuff, then they get taken advantage of because they always get charged over the odds. It's just kind of gross, the whole cycle of it.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have gone in occasionally when, you know, new month and like new games have come out, and they're like, this is like when I didn't really have like a great paying job or anything like that, and it was a case of like, well, the new games coming out are like 50, 60 quid a pop. So I go to CEX and I pick up like 2 or 3 like cheaper games for like 10, 15 quid each instead, sort of thing. And you know, then I'll have like more hours to play this stuff until that sort of price comes down. So I am, you know, I don't think over this I'm going to stop going to them, because obviously there is a service that I can use. If I want a cheap DVD or something like that, or something to watch sort of thing, then yeah, cool, fine. But like, I'm not going to buy like electronics from them.
You'd have to be mad, wouldn't you? You'd have to be absolutely mad to buy a brand new Xbox or PlayStation at 800 quid or something, or iPhone.
Yeah.
You'd have to be absolutely insane, because
it's just disgusting. Like, charge it. Going back to like the original story, almost double the price. Like, I think Scalpers online are actually selling them at more reasonable prices, which is insane.
Well, there has been a backlash, I guess, as well, because there's only so many desperate parents you can take advantage of, and then people will start to level out and be like, well, actually, this isn't. I'm just going to wait until March when they're available again properly, because I wouldn't be too sad. I wouldn't be too sad if sex went away. Put it that way. I wouldn't be too sad.
Should we go back to happier news topics?
Let's go back to happier news.
We got onto a bit of a rant there, didn't we?
Oh, I certainly did. Because I had personally been impacted by it, and they make me angry. But
no, really?
Yeah, a little bit angry. Let's talk about the irony and the awesomeness of this one. Of Control has come to Game Pass mere days after me and Richard purchased it again, so we could get out the Ultimate Edition of it, which isn't the one that's on Game Pass, I might add.
No.
But I did also purchase Control as a gift for someone else, not you, Rob. Don't worry, but I did buy it for someone else for Christmas. It wasn't for you. But you know, good deals. All good deals were had. But the fact that Control is on Game Pass is great news, and I think Rob, you should feel comfortable enough checking it out now. I would say, but that's your call.
At this point, a free offering has been made available to me, because how the Game Pass price structure works for developers is that either they get paid on royalties from the amount of people playing the game through Game Pass, or they just get a lump of cash from Microsoft. So whatever way happens, especially the second, the developers of Control, who I can't remember the name of because I have
Remedy.
Memory, they've already been given money, more than likely. Sometimes it's a mixture of both, of how they pay for games to be on Game Pass that aren't part of their studios. So they probably already have the money that they would have got from the sales. So it's free. Why not? Got some time between Christmas and New Year. You know, there we go. The other thing that I'm quite happy to see coming to Game Pass, although I'm a little bit sad personally that it's now rather than a month, 2 months ago before the release of the Series X, was that Doom Eternal has hit PC Game Pass. Because it was on console Game Pass, but it wasn't on the PC version.
Yeah.
Which did sadden me when I had my console being out of action, because I wanted to play Doom Eternal and couldn't. So I was hoping it would be that kind of cross-availability. So
if you guys have got the story open, what other titles have we got coming to consoles and PC? Just anything standing out in there? If you want to just run down the list, because I believe I did see it, and it was a pretty good month, actually. There was some good stuff on there.
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, Control is huge. Sorry, what's that, Cam?
I think he had a was it Rage 2, wasn't it, that came out as well?
That's look that I bought that at release because I'm an idiot, and that's a fine game. That's a fun first-person shooter, and I think as part of Game Pass, that's perfect. People should check that out. It's well made.
I believe that has actually also came out on PlayStation Now as well for streaming as well for the PlayStation service.
Okay.
Also, the Kingdom management game that we did a review on, Ben, a couple of weeks ago, that is now on Game Pass.
Oh, that Kingdom New Lands, that one.
Yes, although I think it has a different name.
No, it's not called. Do you mean Yes Your Grace? Sorry.
Yes, Your Grace. Yes.
I was thinking of the one that's actually called Kingdom New Lands, which is a Kingdom management game. This is Yes Your Grace. Yes, yeah. So the one we did, which was the kind of conversational based decision making kind of management game. Game of Thrones, the game. Really good.
Yeah. That, I believe, is coming to Game Pass,
Nice.
if it's not already on there. There is Super Hot Mind Control Delete, which is their second one. It's coming to Android and console.
Annoyingly, I'd already purchased that and have yet to play it, so that was a completely wasted purchase. Cool.
I will refuse to play Super Hot outside of VR because VR makes
they're
that
still
game
really good. No, they're still really good.
Level.
The VR version is really good, but they're still really good games.
You said something nice about VR.
It's pretty much the only VR. It's pretty much the only VR game I liked. So,
it's going to start raining blood with the end times now for 2020 December event.
Yeah.
After that.
Ben Fraser's turned this world into Doom Eternal. That's what's happening.
Dragon Quest XI is also coming.
I downloaded that.
Call of the Sea, Monster Sanctuary.
Have you guys played much Dragon Quest games?
No, not a one.
No, it's like no, I'm the same because I looked at this and I like a really nice art style, like really pretty looking anime art style, you know, actiony RPG thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give that a go. So I've downloaded that, so I'm gonna definitely give that a poke at some point over the next few weeks over Christmas. Dragon Quest, yeah.
Something to bear in mind is that Metro Last Light Redux, Ticket to Ride, Untitled Goose Game, and a few other games are leaving on the 15th of December. So if you guys do want to try and get hold of those and play them through before that, then time is running out. The clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking.
TikTok.
Yeah, another one that's left at the start of this month. I want to say it was Age of Wonders Planetfall, which is I think that was the name of it, which is a Paradox game. It was a 4X. Think Civ, right? It's not 4X. Sorry, think Civ game. So hexagonal civilization manager, but sci-fi on an alien planet, and then it's got like not real time, but turn-based XCOM style tactical combat when you get into battles. So it's actually a really good game, and actually it was on sale in the Black Friday sale as well. And I was like, well, it's coming out of Game Pass. I'd already put quite a bit of time into it. I actually bought that because I wanted to continue playing that. So I haven't gone back to it yet, but it's one of those games where, you know, hundreds of hours if you so wish.
Yeah.
You know? So that was a really good game as well. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that.
And there's also a couple of ones that I have played through. I played Greedfall, which is like a...
Yes, I reviewed Greedfall.
That was a fun little one. It took me a little while to get through.
That's kind of like a B tier. Sorry, Greedfall is like a B tier BioWare game, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's got that party management, dialogue choices, action combat, but it's like a historical fantasy setting. It feels like it's sort of like Napoleonic era, but also there are monsters and fantasy shit.
Yeah,
it's a cool game.
And Gang Beasts as well, which I don't know if you guys have played that.
Oh, yes.
That was fun as well. Same guys, I think, who made not Fall Guys, but the other one with like,
you want to say Human Fall Flat, but
Human Fall Flat.
They are very similar looking, but they are not related in any way by the developer.
Are they not really?
Nope.
I thought they were.
Nope.
Well, I'll just shut up then.
They have a really similar look, but they're not connected. No.
No, I mean, Gang Beasts is fun. Well, you definitely get like a couple of friends together.
Oh mate, that game is a brilliant party. That is the best party game. The best party game. I've actually got a bit of Gang Beasts artwork on my walls in my living room actually. So fantastic game. Yeah, should we move on to our continuing coverage?
Yes, the weekly segment about the Amazon PS5 stock issues.
Yeah. Where are we up to, Rob?
We need some sort of snappy title screen, don't we? To come across.
Amazon update.
Should probably make one of those.
Effort.
So we had mass refunds of all
Mass refund.
the £450 charges that went back to all of the customers. But now the payment details have been up to date and they are accepting charges again because I believe they have sourced some stock.
Stock sourced.
So yes, they are actually replacing the PlayStation 5s. Hopefully with actual PlayStation 5s this time and not more cat food. But yeah, it seems like it's a good resolution to this. I don't understand, and I don't know, first of all, the timescales that they would have had to work with Sony to get hold of stock and that sort of thing. But it's another month now. You want this to be sorted faster, but I'm just glad it's being sorted. So,
We're approaching potential resolution. One hopes. So
hopefully.
yeah. Okay, we'll be back next week with another Amazon stock shortage update. Cool. Have any of you guys?
Jingle right now, guys.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys played any of the Sunless Sea or Sunless Skies games, which are based in the Fallen London universe?
Not one, unfortunately.
Not a one. Oh, they're really good. They're on PC, and there's a really good port of Sunless Sea on Xbox, which only came out a few months ago. I reviewed it. Fallen London as a concept is this awesome idea of this sort of steampunk kind of horror punk mixed bit Lovecraftian vibes to it as well, in which Queen Victoria did a deal with like the elder gods to get her husband back from the dead, and the payment she had to pay was London was sort of fell into the Stygian abyss, and so it took everybody with it. So it's this idea that in the Untersee, which is the undersea, if you like, which is where the original Sunless Sea concept comes from. It's like you're kind of sailing around. There's visual novel aspects, and you're kind of like doing story stuff, but also like, you know, exploring and some light combat, and it's got a really great tone to it, but lots of really quality writing, which is the most important thing. And I think the thing people forget about the Fallen London universe, it was originally actually a browser game, which was basically just a visual novel with some management aspects. Then came Sunless Sea, and then came Sunless Skies. Now the developer had some problems because Sunless Skies, while crowdsourced, didn't do as well as they actually hoped. Sunless Sea was very popular. Sunless Skies didn't really take off. They had to let people go, and they've got a new game coming out called Mask of the Rose. And everybody's kind of gone, oh my god, what? And it's a romantic visual novel, which we're about to crowdsource with this on Kickstarter. And people don't seem to understand how that, to me, is actually right in their wheelhouse, because they're all about the writing, and they're all about that kind of really in-depth character work, and that's really where they all come from. And it much more than the kind of action sort of management game you got in Sunless Sea and Sunless Skies. So I'm actually quite curious about this. Now, I wouldn't normally be interested in a romantic visual novel, but after what I thought was one of the best games I played a couple of years ago, Dream Daddy, which is an incredibly amusing game on PC, and I think it was on PlayStation as well, which was a visual novel in which you play as a recently like singled father, and you've moved to a new town with your child, and you end up dating all these other dads, and it's kind of cute and fun and really well written and got an amazing art style. Sorry?
Dream Daddy, isn't that the one that was made by the Game Grumps?
I don't know.
I'm
off the top of my head.
sure the dating simulator was made by yeah. It's the Game Grumps, like Aaron Hansen and Dan Avidan and the other guys who made it, who are funny guys.
Yeah, this is a really funny game.
I too have had a little pop on Dream Daddy because I'm a fan of the Grumps, and it is it is quite a bit of fun actually, isn't it? It's a little bit weird, but like, you know, I don't. Yeah, you've pretty much said everything there is to be about.
It's really well written. Like, it's really well written. So it's like that's why I wouldn't just necessarily go no to a romantic visual novel set in the Fallen London universe, because there's no reason why that won't work. I think we get to explore that universe a bit more. We get to find out more about the background of it. It's a prequel. We're going to find out a bit more about how everything ended up the way it is in the subsequent games, which is actually really interesting in that universe, and they build out the lore there. And they're clearly making this for their fan base, right? So the Fallen London universe has been around a long time, and the reason they were able to make the subsequent games was from crowdsourcing, which indicates very clearly, doesn't it, that the fans are there for them and they want more. So it's like, that's why they're doing it. So I think that's a fun little thing. I'll be keeping an eye on that and hopefully get to try that and stuff when that comes out next year. The next news story is somewhat concerning because it feels like only yesterday us BioWare fans were doing backflips of joy when we found out that Casey Hudson had returned to BioWare to steer the ship out of the Anthem miasma and bring it back round to what we want BioWare to be, which is the pinnacle of the Mass Effect trilogy. And now Casey Hudson and Mark Dara, another kind of key guy at the studio, are stepping away. They're departing BioWare. And Casey's basically said he wants to give it opportunity to younger people in the team to step up into leadership roles and to usher BioWare into the future. That sentiment is brilliant. I really respect that. And it sounds in a way that he's maybe talking about retirement. However, it was literally, I think it was like 18 months ago that he came back to sort things out. Maybe he's done that, but I'm not exactly filled with optimism around this.
It could be that he came back, fixed a couple of faulty decisions and faulty plans, gave them a nice structure to go on, and was mentoring someone to take over for him. And it was never meant to be a long-term return.
Could be, yeah. That is possible. However, you've got to remember, he came back, and since his return, there haven't been any releases. It's not like we've seen, the fruits of his labour. There's some talk around Anthem 2.0. We've seen some stuff around that about the direction they're taking that in. Brilliant. There's going to be supposedly a proper new Dragon Age trailer at the Game Awards. That's this coming week on Thursday night. What's that, Cam?
That'd be quite exciting. I quite liked Inquisition.
I loved Inquisition. I think Inquisition, suffers a little bit from open world sprawl, but it's still a really, really, really good game at its core. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. But yeah, it's still, I don't know. It's hard not to worry, considering the BioWare's latest output. So they talk about who's now running what projects. I won't go through all that because the names don't mean really anything to me, and I suspect they won't mean anything to most people. But they basically went through and said, here, these people are now running, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, this, that, Dragon Age, blah 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 blah, whatever. But yeah, great. So they filled the roles, but Casey Hudson was the one thing that gave us hope, and I think the concern is that without him, what is BioWare going to be? So yeah, that's not the best of news, is it?
I know. I'm optimistic. I reckon he came on to finish resolving mistakes. But
the problem is, while that might be the case, we haven't seen that.
Yes, exactly. This is the thing. If no releases have come out during that time, then clearly he was doing other things to get them back onto the straight and narrow, so to speak.
I mean, you hope. That's the optimistic view. The other view is he came in, couldn't fix it. Yeah, too much of a pain in the ass, and he's gone, fuck you, I'm out. So that could be the other thing that happened, just as likely, isn't it?
Completely.
So, yeah.
It depends whether you're a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person.
Except experience with EA and what they've done with these studios would strongly indicate my suggestion over yours, which is the only problem. So that there is a history of EA destroying amazing studios. So, Maxis and Visceral and the Dead Space guys, the Need for Speed guys, Criterion, who were obviously the Burnout guys before they became the Need for Speed guys. Studio after studio after studio acquisition that they've then destroyed. So yeah, but we got Squadrons, so maybe better now. This is interesting because it gives me a chance to talk about this news story, which was massive, but not exactly game related this week. But there is a game way in, so I was like, "Oh, good, there is a game way in. We can talk about this."
Wanted to talk about it.
I want to talk about this. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because it's huge freaking news, right, in the entertainment industry, which is that Warner Brothers are going to be releasing in America. I will add, confirmed right now. It'll probably happen over here as well, but we don't know exactly the details yet. But they're going to release all of their movie releases next year, day and date, digital, at the same time as theatrical. Now, this is obviously a reaction to COVID and to the pandemic and the fact that, especially in America, they're unable to really open up the cinemas. There's still a lot. Their pandemic situation is so much worse than pretty much anywhere else. So that's a reaction to this. Obviously, this Christmas we've got, coming from them, Warner Brothers, we've got Wonder Woman 1984, and that's coming out in cinemas in the UK, but it's also going to be day and date digital on Sky. So you'll be able to buy that, the day it comes out at home, which is something I'm planning on doing. because I know the wife really wants to see that movie, and we don't want to risk going to the cinema. But this is their entire slate. This includes things like Dune. This includes all the new DC films. This includes, the reason that it's video game related, the new Mortal Kombat film. So I think this is massive. This is crazy. This is the end of cinema? Question mark.
Did you hear that? I thought that was the death knell for modern cinema, right?
Yeah, man.
The second they realise they can get just as much profit, if not more, of people watching it in their own homes. Bye, cinemas. Nice knowing you.
How can it not be more, right? Because if you think about it, no distribution costs, no losing part of the profit to the cinema chain. No, you're cutting your costs and maximising your profits.
And
seems like a win for them.
I love the cinema.
Sorry?
Yeah.
That guts me because I love the cinema.
Me too.
I've actually kind of read into this quite a bit, and it all kind of started this year with the Trolls World Tour movie. I believe that was the first one that had a full digital release. Came on Amazon, I think it was as well, part of them or something like that. And it's incredible because they've made so much money from it. And the thing is, though, when it comes to cinemas, most of their real revenue basically becomes from the food industry, the popcorn and drinks and stuff. That's why they have to jack up those prices so much to the cinema nowadays. The tickets are bugger all, really, if you really think about it. How much of that ticket really goes to the cinema, how much goes to them, you don't know, but you know that all the food is what keeps the place afloat.
Yep.
You buy popcorn and a large drink, that's an hour's pay from one dude. Turns out by 30, that's your entire staff for that day, pretty much,
Yeah.
And Disney did the same thing with the latest Mulan film. They did that on Disney Plus. Even though you were a Disney Plus subscriber, you had to pay an extra, I think it was possibly £20 to watch the new film as well, which would have just, what have people got else to do? You say, stay at home and watch a little Disney film or something. They go, yeah, well, we can't have the cinema. But at the same time, though, obviously the large amount of profit that they make at the cinemas and for the things are multiple tickets being sold for a whole family going out. So I mean, if you spend, I don't know, if you spend £15 streaming Trolls World Tour, my God, why would you? At the cinema, that would have been 3 times as much to take the 2 kids as well. Even a kid's ticket is still like a tenner nowadays, which is ridiculous.
No, you're exactly, and I mean, I'm actually a little bit surprised about one thing here, and that it's Warner Brothers that made the move first. I would have bet in Disney made the move. And
100%. Yeah.
The fact is, though, that Warner have just really, they've just brought out their HBO Max. That's a Warner Brother product, and they've now got that platform, which is their plan to put all of these streaming on HBO Max. Obviously, HBO Max is not out in the UK, which is why they'll be looking at alternative digital partners. Which is why I
believe is their intention.
So Sky is what they've done with Wonder Woman, yes. And the only thing I think that Sky might not be the end point for this in the UK is because obviously Sky is heavily gated behind a huge subscription, right? It's not as accessible as a Netflix subscription at £7. It's a much more expensive proposition. Therefore, it limits your accessibility, right? Obviously, there are things that Sky have like Now TV, and that you can then purchase the films via that, so you can get around not having a Sky thing. But I don't think they're just not as eponymous with streaming as Netflix and Amazon are. So I think perhaps we do see this go somewhere else. We'll see what their long-term plans are and deal. But look, I was a cinephile and a film lover before I was a gamer, right? I've been into movies in the hugest way since I was very little. I come from an acting family. I come from being an insider and living to a degree, especially growing up within the industry and seeing a lot of it. So the death of cinema to me is incredibly upsetting. And it's a case of, it was a huge thing for me. I was one of those people that owned a pass. Me and the wife would go 3-4 times a month in the peak season in the summer. This year has been terrible. It's been like losing a limb. Okay, it's not been like losing a limb, but you know what I mean. I don't want to piss on people, but it's been awful not being able to go to the cinema, like not having the summer movie season, not having the Christmas films like that we'd be starting to get now. That's the other big wave of usually family releases we get around this time of year, and it's a huge part of what makes a year enjoyable for me, is looking forward to those big movies and those blockbusters and the indie movies and finding these things you wouldn't normally see, and discovering these interesting things and acting and performances and all of that. I love all of that. So my question is, like, so without cinema, to back that, to actually, will they get the financial recoup from these films via streaming that can justify these huge productions? That's the worry, is that they can't make stuff on this scale because they're not bringing it back in the box office terms that they're required to actually justify it. So, what do we see in the future of Star Wars? What do we see in the future of Marvel movies? What do we see in the future of blockbusters and stuff like that? Spectacle. And I'm just mad. It's crazy what this industry is going to look like in a year's time. I couldn't predict it.
I'm no idea. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the movies because, like, when you go there, it's an experience.
Yeah, it's communal, isn't it? It's a shared experience.
And it's obviously it's a huge screen. The sounds are just amplified. I mean, I haven't seen. Yeah, I've gone to see every Star Wars film at the cinema since I was taken to see Episode 1 when I was a kid. Obviously, I was way too young to see like the original trilogy. That being said, though, there are still cinemas, especially during the brief period between our first lockdown and this current one that we're just getting over now. Cinemas in the UK, like View, for example, local to me, was doing old films. They were showing old films at cinema.
Yeah.
So I went a couple of times with a friend. I went to see the original Aliens, the original very first Alien film at the cinema, and like I hadn't watched that in years anyway. But like seeing it first time this close, yeah. Oh, it was an incredible experience. And they even showed Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, and seeing that on the big screen, like I could only imagine like how huge this film must have been when it first came out.
Wow, you never saw the original trilogy on the big screen?
I've never really had an opportunity,
Yeah, that was what got me into Star Wars, the '97 re-release, when they brought them all out again in the cinema. That's when I started Star Wars for me, and then obviously the prequels after that. But yeah, the problem is with that I love the idea of classic films being back in the cinema. However, you were one of the few people that went to see them. Nobody else did. Like, that's the problem. Hardly anybody went to those screenings.
That's true, though. Yeah, a lot of empty seats in those cinemas.
Yeah, which is the pandemic and people's general distrust of mixing with people at the moment, or was that because there's no appetite to have Alien shown on the big screen again?
It's both. I mean, it's both, isn't it? But the problem with the pandemic situation, while we've got vaccine information coming through, that's going to start before the end of the year. It's going to ramp up in the UK. It's really good news. I don't know if that's going to be enough to bring back enough confidence, into the cinema market. I mean, it's a big ask. I went to see Tenet, right? I went to see Tenet in the big screen because I knew that as a film you need to see in the big screen. Like it's just like one of those experiences, and it was amazing. I'm so glad I did it. However, there was 4 of us in there, including me and my wife. So it's like, this was opening weekend, and there's 4 of us in the cinema. Yeah, and this was the biggest screen in the cinema, right? And there was literally me and my wife, and then 2 other people in front of us. And I was looking around. That's it. So I was opening weekend. Nobody was going to see films, and for obvious reasons. I didn't feel exactly comfortable. But I knew that was the only chance I was going to get to see that movie in the big screen. So it's a big ask. The world has shifted. The things have changed. And I hope cinema finds a way out of this. Yeah, I really do. Because AMC came back with something, didn't they? And it was basically like, we're going to look at everything we can do within our economical power, within the abilities.
Yeah.
What can you do? What can you do? You're going to boycott Warner Brothers films? What are you going to do? They won't care if you do that.
My only question for you right now, Ben, is on HBO Max, are you going to watch the Snyder cut of the Justice League film?
Well, I don't know where that's going to be in the UK. I'm not bothered enough to do any silly piracy crap to see it. That's for sure. And if there's a way of legitimately watching it in the UK, I might. I'm kind of curious to see what he does to that movie. But
I will be watching it.
Yeah, I'm curious. So one more video game movie related bit of news here, right at the end. We'll just chuck it in. It's a little thing. I'm curious to see what you think about this, especially Cam. Oscar Isaac has been cast to be Solid Snake in the new Metal Gear movie. Now, the only reason I mention that is that Oscar Isaac, I think, is a brilliant actor, but also they've been trying to make a Metal Gear movie for a really, really long time. Do we think this is actually going to happen? And what do you think of the casting?
You know, Snake, I mean, in his like youthful days, there was like a little kind of cockiness in his voice, you know, in his sort of voice acting. David Hayter, a very renowned voice actor, played Snake for 3 of the games, and who was one of the favorite voice actors to play Snake and everything as well. He's gone on to do different things. We actually, Kiefer Sutherland actually voiced Snake in MGS5.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough. Sorry, I tell a lie. It was 4 films for David Hayter. So I can see, you know, I can see him doing a good job as Snake because, like you said, he's a great actor. But it's bringing the world to life that I'm more worried about rather than the casting itself. You know, it's Hideo Kojima's brilliant. You know, he's made some really great games. The Metal Gear series is a personal favorite of mine. I'd love to see like some of the original like trilogy being Blue Point, get on it, remastered properly. And it's such an extended and expansive universe, and there is some really crazy stuff that happens in that entire universe. You know, so if it's not explained very well, then
But Cameron, I mean, Kojima doesn't explain it very well. I mean, there are whole
you get
essays.
4 hours of cutscene,
but there are whole essays
that's explained in that.
Yeah, but there's whole essays and like 2-hour YouTube videos where people try to explain Metal Gear. It's a fucking mess. It's a shit show of confusing tropes and concepts. And if anything, the film will boil it down and actually clarify it. I mean, if it cuts 2/3 of the crap out, it will actually be a better thing.
You know how dumb I am, but I understand it.
Out of it.
But
Will it just turn into generic
spy
thing?
But that could still be good.
Metal Gear.
That could still be good. You have Metal Gear Rex walking around, nuclear vertical tank, basically. You know, Snake has to stop it. He's dealing with these over the top.
And why is that Metal Gear? If all of the complexity and the clones and whatever bullshit is in the Metal Gear universe,
but my argument,
if that is all taken out of it, you're losing part of what makes Metal Gear Metal Gear.
The fact that it's kind of shit.
Generic robot spy action film.
But the problem is
solid.
Yeah, but the problem is with what you're right, but it's only complex because it's been badly told. So tell it well. I mean, is what I'm saying. It's because
I can hear pitchforks being sharpened already.
It's a mess. It's a complete mess. I have played all of the games. Right, I've never played them all. I've not played them all to completion. I've played all of the games. I've watched multiple videos. I've read multiple essays on it, and it still doesn't make any bloody sense. It is a complete shit show.
Clearly, you need to try harder, Ben.
Yeah, did you hear that, Rob? I think we just went down to 990 subscribers.
Yeah, just heard the numbers falling.
I'm sorry. I love how stupid it is. I love how bad it is. Like, but it is bad. It is stupid. It is a shit show because it's this guy, this auteur, if you like, Kojima, who had very little editorial control over him, and he's an Americanophile, right? He's this Japanese guy who loves American culture and cinema and action and stuff. But therefore, everything's been comes in from America, goes through this filter in his crazy little head, and comes out as the nutty bollocks that he produces. And it's fun because of that. But if you actually want a Western-made movie, I suspect it will be better told and more, better performances with more coherent storylines than we ever got in any of the games. So it might be the definitive Metal Gear, the film, better than the games. Just saying.
The thing, on the other end of the spectrum, though, they might do like what Assassin's Creed did. Accessible for a lot of people and also there for the fans as well. So it's a tough call. I think it's a great casting.
Yeah.
It's just hard to know what it's going to be. Is it going to be over the top and mainly for the fans? In which case, I think it will kind of flop. But if they make it accessible for everyone, then I think a lot of people might just get a kick out of it.
This actually segues us into our topic really nicely, because Metal Gear Solid 2 had some very famous marketing, and this actually works really nicely. It did. So I'll tell you why. So the topic we've come up for today, because of Cyberpunk, more than anything, is the power of video game marketing and hype to generate sales, to get people interested in the newest product. So famously, Metal Gear Solid 2 never showed Raiden. It implied that Solid Snake was the main character of the game through all of its trailers, through all of its pre-release material. And then the game came out, and then within, I think it's about an hour, like it's the first tutorial mission, isn't it? And that's basically it. You play the whole game as another character entirely. You don't play it as Snake, and people went mental. Like, so this was kind of like the inverse marketing. This was this trick they played on people. So that's a very famous piece of video game marketing. Like, all of that materials, people were so hyped for the game, completely swerved. I mean, Cameron, that's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, do you remember that?
No, I really don't. It's just the weird part. Because I don't know, when did Gear Solid 2 come out? That must have been early 2000.
It's not just like they showed the trailers were like how we have with some games, like we'll talk about Halo 3's marketing, for example, which was live action and, you know, different, not showing gameplay. They showed actual gameplay levels from the game with Solid Snake in it, which were actual levels when you played the game where you were Raiden. So they fully character swapped it. So it was a complete surprise when you played that game that this some young dude you'd never heard of was the main character.
That would annoy me more than anything.
People were pissed. People were real pissed. I mean, this was kind of like before the internet was a massive thing, like as big as it is today. But yeah, it was huge. It was massive, and people forget that. Like, it's a weird thing, but people do sort of forget it because people look back as that game as like their favorite one. A lot of people, and they forget that this was this huge, you know, because it's, you know, hindsight is 2020 and all of that, rose tinted glasses. But yeah, this pissed off the vast majority of fans.
I think
it was huge.
The annoying thing I think a lot of people had is that Raiden just wasn't a great character. You know, a lot of people just didn't like the character in general. It's
very
not
different, isn't
the fact that he wasn't playing as Snake sort of thing. You know, it was.
Well, he's a ninja. Well, he's a cyborg ninja with a sword.
It's 3 hours of explaining it to you
exactly.
again.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a bit whiny. He was a bit, you know, he wasn't as grizzled as the action hero that we all kind of knew. And you know, it's fair play to him. Obviously, he had a bit of redemption here and there in some of the later games and stuff like that. But you know, not enough to kind of make up for the trick that was pulled off on us. You know.
It's crazy, yeah. I mean, so it's similar. It's similar to, I guess, Halo 4, where Halo 4 where you play
5.
as Locke, 5 where you play as Locke.
Yeah.
And then I always remember. I mean, Halo 2's looked back at really fondly, but I fucking hated those Arbiter levels at the time. I was not interested in playing as the Arbiter at all. And it's just like, so it had a similar thing to that, to 5, and it's like, so these are things that were not conveyed, you know, in the marketing for whatever reason. That they either didn't have confidence in it or they wanted to surprise the players.
With Halo 5, I think it was a bigger problem. The marketing bigged it up as something that it wasn't. It wasn't this hunt for Master Chief. It wasn't trying to catch him. It was a small fist fight, a third to a half of the way through the game, and then Locke following Chief around like his little bitch. That was what Halo 5 was, which was at odds with the marketing in pretty much every single way possible. It's
to the point where they had a fucking TV show where Locke is the main character in the TV show, and Nightfall, I believe it was, wasn't it? And and that was, man, I watched all of that, and I will never get that time back. It seemed to be made for 50p and just garbage. I mean, oh god, but like so bad. You know, I actually quite like the other show they did, which was Forward Unto Dawn. Did you ever watch that one?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I can't.
So that was the one, because these are interesting. I call them TV shows, right? But they're marketing, aren't they? Once again, this is marketing. They were like web series, really, and they came out around the games releases, and they were to get people interested in buying these video games. So because you know, you go back, because we were talking about iconic characters, weren't we, a couple of weeks ago, Rob? Do you remember that? And that was our topic, and we were talking about the Chief and how he was at that point at Halo 3, Halo 4, the peak of Halo fandom. He was quite iconic. So they used used him in this live action thing. So in Forward Unto Dawn, of course, this is actually a really good one. It's all set in the sort of naval academy on Reach. Is it Reach or is it Harvest? It's one of those two. Before the Covenant show up, and Chief only shows up right at the end to save the day, basically. But it's all about these young recruits forced into like being soldiers, and it connects up to the storyline of some of the characters in Halo 4. For example, the captain of that big ship that they're on, I can't remember the name of it now, was like a young lad on Harvest when he first met Chief. No, not Pillar of Autumn, because that we don't get that after Halo 2. So this was a different ship in Halo 4. But anyway, who cares? But it's all basically marketing. I mean, that's crazy if you think about it. The amount of money and time and production that had gone into live action web series, basically to sell video games, right? So that's the level of money that Microsoft was putting into that product to make sure that those games were a success. Is, I don't know if we've seen it since. Like, so what marketing campaigns, Rob's going to come at this from an interesting angle in a minute, I think. But Cameron, what marketing campaigns have really got you hyped and driven you into a game that maybe you weren't thinking about beforehand?
I don't know about campaigns, but I mean, marketing like videos and like trailers for games and stuff that have really kind of got to me over the years has been, I remember it was, I think it was Dead Island, I think it was. The video that runs in reverse.
Yep, the live action one.
I mean.
Yeah.
The live action one. That one was mind-blowing. It was incredibly done. I didn't even know what the hell I was looking at. I thought I was looking at a new show coming out or a film or something like that. But it's a game. This is a game? Sold! Instantly sold on that. But then on the kind of flip side of things, another game that looked like it was going to be absolutely brilliant, which I enjoyed for a time, but then it was just kind of a bit meh at the end, was Bulletstorm. I don't know if you remember Bulletstorm.
Yeah, of course.
It was fun and everything, and like the trailers and everything looked like it was absolutely, an absolute gore fest, and it kind of was, but there wasn't really much else to it. It was a bit of a flop, really. I think for a lot of people.
I liked it, but it's a solid B tier game, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah,
it's not triple A.
Not exceptional. Could have been better.
So if people can fly. It's one of those things. People can fly. The developer, known for the prior to that Painkiller games. So you kind of know that you're getting sort of physics, playground, gore, first person shooter going into that, and it's quite slight. Christ, I think we were debating a few weeks back storylines, weren't we, and narratives in games. We were trying to compare Halo and Gears of War, and it's just like, man, this is sub all of that. I mean, when it comes to like generic space dudes and shit fighting reasons, it's like, oh my god, there's nothing there. They're paper thin, and it's just complete generic crap when it comes to setting and characters. But the actual gameplay was good, I thought.
It's interesting because I can't remember much of the marketing around Bulletstorm. I can't remember much of it or the hype around it. I saw briefly trailers for it and that sort of thing when I was watching E3 at that time. And I remember playing it, I remember going through it. But the marketing for it is gone for me. It's something that I can't remember.
There's been bits and bobs. Again, there's just sort of like trailers that play like in the cinemas just before like your film and stuff like that. Like the live action video for Assassin's Creed, I think it might have been Black Flag when you had like Blackbeard telling the story and everything. It was like, oh, what's this? And then like you just see like Edward Kenway running around the deck, and he was like, oh yeah, this is Assassin's Creed. This looks good. I'm having it now.
It's difficult for me to sometimes remove the hype and the marketing around my previous experience with either the developer or a game in that franchise. One example that often comes to mind is obviously we've touched on it before, Mass Effect Andromeda. So this had so much promise, had a lot of marketing, had a lot of trailers, and then was obviously a huge letdown. The other one that was famous, recent-ish, last generation, was Aliens Colonial Marines, which was the Gearbox title, right? So, but I don't remember the marketing as such. But the hype around it was that the fact that they're making an Aliens colonial Marines game. So the idea finally, it's not an Aliens versus Predator where you get to play as the Marines a little bit. This is a full focused experience. You're going to be, you're going to be the bug killers. You're going to be, Apone and Vasquez and all of those guys going down, smart guns, pulse rifles. You're going to have that fantasy finally of just crushing Xenos all over a planet's surface, in space, on the ground. You're going to get in an APC. You're going to do all of that. And then it's not necessarily a terrible game. It's just so underwhelming when you compare it to the potential of that concept. I think that's the problem. The franchise and the idea, what we all have in our minds, in our imagination of what that game would be, you're going to really struggle to match that. And then yes, the game has issues. It's got a lot of AI issues, for example, with the Xenos and how they behave. At the end of the day, the pulse rifle still sounds like the pulse rifle, which still gives me a level of enjoyment. But yeah, it's just a very mediocre first-person shooter.
I think at the moment where we stand as a user base is quite interesting because of Cyberpunk. We have a game that has been hyped to buggery. I think we can all agree.
And Keanu Reeves and everything coming out on stage. Yeah.
Like the level of hype and the marketing effort around Cyberpunk has been excessive.
Well, it's been the biggest we've seen in a long time, isn't it? Because
but we haven't actually played it yet. No one outside of the studio actually knows whether this hype is going to be worth it or whether it's going to completely fall apart.
So I think it's really interesting because there's a few reasons I think we've got here. We've got an aggressive marketing campaign. So we've got posters and bus ads and tube ads and huge amounts of also kind of more guerrilla marketing efforts, through and then there's influencer marketing, where they've purchased influencers and stuff to promote it and stuff and giving them money, straight up money and swag. This is the world we live in, and this is another element of marketing and hype, I think, which is we can touch on in a minute. But I think the Cyberpunk thing is really, really interesting because it's a new IP, and we've not had a big new IP to get behind, to get excited about for quite a while. So the fact is, we're talking about a lot of these games as sequels. So we're talking about the different Halo games. We're talking about various franchises. Cameron mentioned Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. So they bring a certain level of cachet and hype due to their previous installments. Whereas Cyberpunk, yes, we know the studio has pedigree because of The Witcher 3. So we know they can write. We know they can construct a good RPG. But this is a very different thing. Yeah. So there's excitement, there's hype, there's concern, there's anticipation. I want to love this game more than anything ever. But at the same time, I have to also be aware it might not live up to that. It's quite possible they won't live up to that. And we have set a bar very high for it, but they've got themselves to blame for that. This is a lot of what they're own doing and building this up. So if they don't hit it, this is why we've had so many delays, because they've obviously they were aware of that. They can't just ship it and hope. They know they've got this huge bar to pass that if they don't, will wipe off how many points off of their business. Absolutely could destroy them financially. So
this reminds me of another game that did exactly the same thing and did not launch very well. No Man's Sky. They overpromised. They hyped themselves. They made what was being offered sound amazing, and what shipped wasn't.
I think what shipped was very good. It just wasn't what was good anticipated.
It wasn't there. It wasn't what
they didn't manage. They didn't manage their community expectations. That's the problem.
Exactly.
The community built this huge thing out of No Man's Sky. The term "forever game" came out of that, and it's like, oh my god, guys, is this it? Is this the game that lets me do everything? Is this the Oasis from Ready Player One? And it's like, no, it's been made by 10 people. What do you think this is? Like, what are you talking about? How could it be that? And there is an element of Cyberpunk. So I think can we touch on the community? Can we touch on influencers and how YouTube streamers and Twitch streamers and these people, how they are the new marketeers, how that element of marketing has replaced huge live action web series, because it gets out to more people, And I think you mentioned it earlier, Rob. You seem, you know, your attitude of you think you're relatively insulated from marketing. I think you might be from conventional marketing, but what the influencer I think does, which is really interesting, is even if you don't watch it, I did, and I'm now going to talk to you about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I become, you know, your friends become your de facto marketers because they're being reached in ways that don't feel like marketing, that don't feel like advertising. And I think that's super insidious and really clever.
Can any conversation about anything therefore not be classified as marketing?
Well, I mean,
because by that logic, no, you can't have a conversation with your friends about a video game coming out. Because I mean, that's the video game creator's marketing.
That's not exactly the point. I mean, if you want to talk about terminology, then yeah, that is one sort of breakdown of it. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is that people are more susceptible to marketing now because of how it's presented to them. Because the businesses have realised we can fast forward adverts, we skip adverts on YouTube. You know, we don't watch them, don't pay attention to them. It doesn't work. But if you can get your favourite streamer who you've watched play 200 hours of Skyrim talking about Cyberpunk to you, even though you weren't really interested in Cyberpunk, but now they're talking about it. Oh, maybe I should look into. Oh wow, that looks really cool. Hey Jeff, now have you heard about this Cyberpunk? You know, down the pub, you know, and it all of a sudden becomes this very different beast, and it's evolving in front of you.
What about gamers who don't follow streamers?
But that's what I'm saying. Those people are reached by their friends who do. So it's kind of like they have changed how they're getting out there. What we're doing right now, I mean, you know, we could say none of us are being paid or sponsored by any of these products, right? Obviously, and we don't monetize our channel, we don't have a Patreon, and blah 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 blah. But we are talking about and signal boosting these video games because we have got excited about it. For example, my main excitement from Cyberpunk came from the setting. I love that setting. I've always enjoyed that genre in fiction. And B, the studio that's making it, right? So I wasn't influenced by streamers or advertising. I was interested before all of that. I was interested from the day it was rumoured that they may be doing it because I had hopes because of their pedigree. And that could be good. You could argue that's coming from a more informed position, I suppose, because I'm looking at the history of the studio more and what they've done before. But it's still marketing. I'm still signal boosting their message, you know, and I'm doing it for free. Stupid me. Where's my Cyberpunk branded chair? I've seen all those bought in hardcore streamers who've been promoting this shit. They've all got nice yellow gaming chairs with Cyberpunk branding all over it. Where's mine? I want one of them. Sort me out.
I gotta say, like, the most prominent piece of marketing that resonates with me in my memories has got to be the one that I did, where I had my friend who currently he used to work for EA for Dead Space. I mean, I talked to you about this a little while ago, Ben. I don't know if did you hear this, Rob?
Yes, indeed, I did, and I love it.
For those of you who didn't know, that when I was younger and a lot slimmer, and I actually fit into a decent spacesuit, I was actually walking around London in an Isaac suit from Dead Space. It was like this like lycra thing with like carbon fiber like battery packs attached to it for like my health bar at the back, and these huge like heavy boots I was walking around in. And just walking around London like and you know, gamers everywhere just kind of like, oh my god, like the Dead Space dude, and they all took some pictures and stuff. It was really cool. You know, it got me dinner for that week. I can't ever forget that. It was awesome.
That is cool. Yeah, first-hand experience of going out there and marketing a video game to the masses, you know, and that is an interesting form of marketing because that type of marketing is targeted at people that aren't inherently interested in gaming. You are getting people's attention by being dressed up in a, you know, weird way on the street. You know, you don't know who you're gonna bump into, and I think that's a very kind of, that's old school, isn't it? I bet they don't do it as much, that sort of stuff, especially not now with COVID, obviously, this year.
Yeah. mean, and you know, it's one of those things. Like, and for one, you know, I think Dead Space holds up. It's a brilliant game as well.
Yes.
But it's
at least it wasn't Sonic Generations, you know, or something crap like that. Cam.
Sorry again?
I was just saying, at least you were dressed up as something worthwhile and not a shit game. So.
I've also dressed up as a Lego character before, and that was for work.
But you're just a corporate shill, aren't you?
Yeah,
that's all you do.
But guess what? I got paid for it, so...
Well, it'd be a bit of a shit...
monetized.
It'd be a shit shill if you weren't getting paid for it, yeah. Monetized. Hashtag monetize this shit. Yeah. No, we will maintain our integrity. I tell you. But that's a cool story, and I'm trying to think if I've ever done anything quite like that. I've never done that. We've done sponsored back in the day on Brit Xbox. We did sponsored posts where we'd get paid to promote something, but it would be made clear within the post that's what it was. Obviously, rules around all of that has changed a lot. Like now supposedly, if you're an influencer and you are paid to promote, you have to say you're being paid to promote. That's a relatively new thing, which is good, so people don't feel. But I wonder how much difference that makes. I really do. I mean,
I think it depends on the advertiser, because there are a few YouTube channels I follow, primarily focused on Magic the Gathering, that do promote like Raycon wireless earbuds and NordVPN and all sorts of things. But they've turned the ads, instead of, look, here's a product, or here's 30 seconds of be real about the product, they've turned it into a bit of a hilarious kind of skit or sketch. Where, this middle-aged professor type is like, yes, you want to be down with the kids to listen to your music, and here are some earbuds and stuff like that. He's turned it into something funny where it's actually, do you know what, I don't mind watching this, because what the hell is he going to do next?
And you're being advertised to, and you're happy to be advertised to. It's weird, isn't it?
How those particular content creators, so that's the professor from the Tolarian Community College, that's the guys over at the Command Zone and Game Nights, which I know means nothing to either of you, but I'm going to name them in case people get curious. They do that sort of thing, and I think that's really good on them to do it, because they need that advertising support, they need that financial network.
I want to point something out though, Rob. That won't have been their idea. That would have it's been pitched to them by the product. Yeah, I've had that happen. You are given guides. You are told how best to promote the product. Yes. So it's a case of here's your, like I said, we had some sponsored posts. They told us how to write the posts. They told us what pictures they wanted in them. They tell you how to do it, where to do it, when to post it. It's not anything to do with your favorite content producer. It's 100% dictated by the product, by the people paying you to do it. Yeah. So they would have seen that, conventional advertising not as effective. They've done their research. They've come up with this new alternative way of doing it. They've told them, if you want the sponsorship, you do it like that. So that's it. Yeah.
To an extent, I will agree with you. Obviously, you have anecdotal experience, but I think
it's not anecdotal. It's first-hand
experience.
Yeah.
Then, I think that's not the case with some of them, but
it is. Balance. It's because you'll notice that they all do it. You'll notice that you go around various sort of like NordVPN or whatever, earbuds people, whoever's promoting the product, they'll all be doing it in the same way.
Yes, but would a hair loss prevention cream do that in the same way for the same content creator?
Yeah, but they wouldn't be appealing. You wouldn't get sponsorship for hair loss in something that wasn't related. So if it's a beauty channel promoting it, I mean, perhaps, but it's.
I've seen it.
But they'll tell them how to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. It's. I know it's super cynical. It's super cynical and it's disappointing. But it's business. But it's business, and this is one of the reasons why I'm reluctant to monetize here, because then you get that stuff happens, right? So that becomes a much bigger part of your product, because that's, for example, I don't know your channels that well that you're referring to, but if that's where they make all their money, that's their full-time job, right? You've got to make money.
Yes.
Right. So you have to do that. You have to make these compromises, and sometimes these compromises are gonna feel shitty to you. You need to find out, where is that line for you? Where is that line where you go, you know what, that's too far. I don't want to do that. Or if it's my only source of income, you're looking at, I need to live. I need to maintain the channel. Server costs are a real thing. Web hosting is a real thing that costs money. Podcast, all of it costs money. So if you want to recoup those costs, and then make money to live and have a lifestyle, do stuff, you have to ask yourself where that line is.
Exactly.
But that's, everybody's got their own place. But it's a very cynical business. All of that is very carefully planned out. Yeah. And structured, because they know what they're doing. They've been doing it a long time now. And it's constantly evolving, which is what we're kind of back to what we were talking about how influencers have taken over. I think a large portion of that marketing budget now is where that money goes, rather than fun adverts that we used to get, or web series, or like Cameron mentioned that live action Dead Island one. We just don't see that. I remember I sent you guys a trailer the other day. Do you remember that random trailer I put in the WhatsApp group for something Squid, which was like this shooter game? Do you remember that Black Squid thing?
A couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Black.
So Black Squid or something like that, and it was like a shoot 'em up game in which the bullet hell game were generated based on where your ship flew. So you were creating your own map that you had to dodge through the bullets. But the marketing was this insane trailer of like this man and a woman in a diner vomiting up black ink over themselves, laughing maniacally, had nothing to do with the game. But boy, oh boy, did it make me look into it. I was like, I want to find out what this is. So it was like, that worked, didn't it? I looked it up. I sent it to you guys.
It works when it results in a sale.
Oh, no. Because they were offering code, and I was like, does anybody want this? So we would then... And that's everything we do. Look, I'm not wrong, right? We get code, right? We get code to play games, and then talk about the games. It's marketing.
That's different. For you and the organisers of a YouTube channel, and for influencers, that's different. But for Joe Public, who has seen that trailer on YouTube because it appeared and is suggested, the marketing does not work until Joe Public decides, yeah, all right, I'll download that.
No, but I was just segueing to the fact that we're all marketers here as well, on Experience Kills.
True.
I mean, while we don't monetize in any way, we do still play video games and talk to you about video games. Now, we will always be honest with our opinion on the video game, though obviously the argument is that any press is good press, right? So you're still signal boosting something, even if you're talking about it negatively, right? So, and for the most part on Experience Kills, because it's our remit, we look for the positive in things because we believe that nobody's trying to make a bad video game, right? So for the most part, if I really, really hate something, I don't know if that's going to necessarily fit on the channel because that's not really what we're about, hating on stuff, because there's loads of places that hate on stuff, right? So you have to bear that in mind with wherever you watch any content on YouTube. Like, if anything is being provided to that channel, then there's a question there, isn't it, that you have to ask yourself, right? So it's a tricky world we live in now because it's everywhere.
Indeed.
And it's everything, especially as so many people in lockdown are watching more and more YouTube and stuff like that, and buying games digitally. It's easier than ever to buy stuff. So it's like, where are those connections? Where are those biases? Where does it become questionable? Like you were talking about the channels that you like. When do those lines get crossed and it becomes something you shouldn't support or trust? It's tricky. It's really tricky, and you have to make your own judgment call all the time. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? Always trust yourself first. Like, do your own research, multiple sources, before especially purchasing stuff. We don't. So
this has transitioned away from the topic of marketing and video games to a sermon on making sure you do not fall prey to marketing and trust your judgment.
It's all connected, man. It's all connected. It's
connected, but geez, talk about a hop, skip, and a jump away from our original conversational topic.
Yeah, true. I'll give you that. It has moved on, but I think it's an interesting conversation.
Experience kills.
I think it's an interesting conversation. It's this weird place we now live in, isn't it? the World Wide Web of everything. Everything is connected so deeply.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I mean, that's the one reason one of the main reasons why I don't try and ever provide a value proposition to our reviews, like that buyer's guide. Some people consider reviews should be a buyer's guide, and I think that's difficult because you can only ever be subjective. I don't believe in objective reviews. I don't think they're real. I don't think that's possible because every reviewer will bring their own baggage with them to it. So, you can't tell somebody you should buy that. All you can tell them is that I really liked it. Do you know what I mean? Or the vice versa, So, anybody else want to add anything here? Any other final thoughts on marketing and hype in video games? No? You guys have gone real quiet. We've gone totally deep here.
I can't think of anything.
Yeah,
Rob looks many
things. I think many things have been said about marketing and video games here this afternoon. So speaking of video games, back to kind of the main point of the channel. What have we been playing this week?
I don't know.
Ben,
What do you
been
want me to
playing
start?
Well, I did ask the question.
Okay. I've done something that you guys will probably be disgusted about, but I've spent a bunch of time playing FIFA 21.
Yeah, I'm going to join Cam with that one.
Yeah, I thought you might. I looked at my library today on my Xbox One. I have every FIFA game that's come out since the start of the Xbox One generation. I was just like, wow, when did I get all of these? I don't remember that. And then I remembered I did review quite a few of them over the years, so quite a few of them were provided by EA. But no, I was playing the trial of FIFA 21, having a good time. Found it cheap, 25 quid on out on the internet. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to buy this because I really enjoy playing football games, even though I don't really follow it. But I do enjoy the game of playing virtual football. Soz.
Disappointed, man. We are disappointed.
I know.
Cam, what about you? What have you been going through? You said Surge 2, I believe, earlier?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've gotten pretty far on Surge 2, and because it was available on PlayStation Now for a downloadable game, so I've been just streaming through it. And I've actually re-downloaded the Horizon Zero Dawn from the PlayStation Now because I have the standard edition and I didn't get the DLC, so I thought, well, yeah, whatever, I don't really mind about that. But now that the downloadable version on PS Now actually has the Frozen Wilds expansion, so I'm going to make a little foray back into there as well. Were
you a big fan of HCD?
Sorry?
Were you a big fan of it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It's nice open world. The environments were great. The concept of like the creatures and everything, like the way they look and everything, was really cool. Like as if they kind of spawned, naturally into these sort of creatures and everything as well. It was quite an interesting take.
The world is constructed in such a way that even though you're fighting robot dinosaurs, it kind of makes sense in a weird way. But how did you find the combat?
Interesting. Obviously you've got the melee combat was kind of strange, and because you're going up against these robot metallic creatures, and yet you're kind of jabbing them with like a spear, which I always kind of found a wee bit weird, or with bow and arrow. I did like it because obviously when you're going up against like a little bandit hideout sort of thing, you can stealth your way through that entire thing and just headshot like most enemies, and it was really cool. But no, I enjoyed most of the combat because you can get some really good parts out of it as well. Especially if you're scavenging and for certain parts to upgrade materials and everything as well. And of course, certain creatures have certain weaknesses as well that you can exploit. So yeah, I found it really enjoyable. It took me ages to get through it because I'm one of those not full completionist platinum everything, but I just like to explore every inch of the map. So I'd be out of the bottom corner of the map and like everything is way too high and it's trying to kill me, and I was like, I shouldn't be here yet. Oops.
Yeah. It was a cool world. I really liked the world a lot. I didn't love the combat, but I kept meaning to go back to it, but never have. I got the expansion, but never went. I didn't even finish the base game though, so I should.
I finished the base story. I think after I realised I spent way too many hours on it, I was like, I should probably finish this game, just so I can at least get the end game trophy.
Yeah, it was like me in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I did that. Where I was just like pissing around for dozens of hours. I was like, I probably should just finish the story. Maybe. Yeah.
Also, just to kind of annoy Ben, I've been playing some VR. Thank you for your support there, Rob.
Much support for VR.
I treated myself this month because I got my PSVR from my friend who I lent it to him, and I bought the Vader Immortal episodes, and they were really fun. They had a really nice story. I think it fit in quite nicely in the Star Wars universe, because there are bits of the Star Wars universe in like the comics, for example, which are canon now, which were actually reflected in the game's story as well, somewhat at least. Anyway, the combat was fun. Having like your own lightsaber and like deflecting bolts back and fighting against a lightsaber or staff wielding enemies as well was really cool. And then later on into the game, which I don't know how far you actually got, Rob. I think you finished like the first episode.
There's a campaign. I've been having too much fun in the dojo. Just
So,
that is enough.
In later campaigns and the later episodes, you learn to wield the Force as well. So you get to like grab objects, pull them towards you, and just jam a lightsaber into them. You can throw them against other enemies. And if you do the dojos in the later games, then of course you get access to Force powers and stuff as well. And let me tell you, it feels badass when you force grab a stormtrooper's gun off the ground, deflect bullets while shooting at another one with the other hand as well. Yeah. You should have stuck to it, making that face there like I should have stuck to it.
I need to get more Vader Immortal. That's what I need to do.
Did you, Cameron? Have you seen the latest episode of Mandalorian?
I have.
Yeah, man. Just saying, nothing better than force chucking around some stormtroopers, eh?
Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
The Mandalorian is
the greatest thing ever in Star Wars. I'm
pretty
gonna
much,
say.
Yeah.
Live action
In
Star
recent
Wars.
times, yes.
Nah.
But
better than all the movies. I love it so much.
But the only problem I have is that I don't know why it's annoying me so much, but I still have people referring to Grogu as Baby Yoda, and now he has a name. And I'm like, motherfucker, it's Grogu. It's Baby Yoda.
The power of marketing once again. I believe you'll find there.
It's ignorance is what it is.
Well, it's people that probably never watched the show, isn't it? But
I don't think it's the power of marketing.
It's my partner's as well at home. She'll sit there and she'll watch it on the side as well. Admittedly, she's not too in depth into Star Wars, so she had to ask me who the hell Ahsoka Tano was, and I was like, "Are you fucking serious,
bitch? Please,
bitch." We're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch. You're watching the Clone Wars now for the next.
Well, Rob. I was talking to Rob. Rob didn't know who Kyle Katarn was.
A lot of the expanded universe stuff I've not seen.
To be honest, because it's expanded universe and it's no longer canon, which is a real jit, because there's some really cool stuff.
I think it's going to be canon again, Cam.
Sorry?
I think it's going to be canon again.
That would be cool. But I mean, there's stuff in the future when Luke was Jedi Master and took the mantle of Master. He had green Force lightning powers, which he didn't go to the dark side of the Force to use. How cool is that?
Well, now that's the shit I want to see.
You see some of the fan casting. Sebastian Stan as young Luke.
As a young Luke, yeah, that's pretty.
That would work, wouldn't it? I think that would work really well. That'd be cool.
There's actually someone actually did a face swap of Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, I saw it. Look ridiculously close.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad.
We've also had the theory that Mace Windu is meant to be coming back.
Yeah.
Really
Cam's reaction.
These sorts of theories are useless until we get any sort of confirmation.
At least I think the idea of Sebastian Stan makes sense. He's already in the Disney family, isn't he? So as Bucky, so I could see that more likely than Sam.
Excuse me, what? And Nick Fury isn't.
True, but it's Sam Jackson. He's going to want a bigger paycheck. So that's my thinking. Anyway, video games.
The other one I've been playing recently as well, which again was on PlayStation Now, was Stranded Deep. And I don't. You said you may have had it as well, Ben. Did you actually have a go?
I had a go last night. I can't say I loved it.
Me neither. And I don't. One annoying thing I had is that there's no multiplayer available on the PlayStation or Xbox. However, it is available on the PC.
It's one of those. It's one of those ports where it's quite a dirty port. It's not fully featured. It's quite far behind. I thought the game just looked, considering it's quite small in scope, I was surprised at how rough it looked. It doesn't look great in terms of textures and just, you're on these tiny little desert islands with some sea around you. You'd think they could make that look really pretty, but I was sort of a bit disappointed by it with all the textures and the models and stuff, and then the sort of the onboarding, the tutorialization of what you're meant to do is enough to guide you, but not enough to actually make it clear as to how you're meant to do stuff. So it was just sort of annoying, I guess.
Especially when you're crafting stuff as well, which is you can only hold a finite amount of objects, which is I guess that's kind of okay.
It makes sense,
expected.
doesn't it? Yeah.
It makes sense. But on the other hand, like when you are crafting stuff, like you can either craft it if it's in your inventory or if it's on the ground in front of you,
Right.
and they add together. So if you've got like 4 palm leaves in your inventory and 4 palm leaves on the floor, you have 8 to make a large shack, sort of thing. You know?
Right. Oh, I hadn't got to that bit. I guess that makes sense.
It makes some sense, but at the same time, it's like, geez, why don't you just let me pick everything up, or show me how to make a container from the beginning so I can store lots of stuff? But it doesn't. And then when it comes to actually needing to craft stuff, it doesn't tell you what you need, or really kind of like a lot of the time how you get it sometimes as well.
The how you get it bit was what was confusing to me, because there's not a lot on this island, and I was sort of like, I need what?
Yeah,
how do I get that
from rope? And you get it from a certain leaves. I'm like, okay, so what are these leaves? You know, I've collected palm leaves. I've chopped down like 5 trees. I found like a shrub I can't even walk through. You know, which is a thick bramble. Apparently, is so solid I can jump on it, but nothing. And then like this one specific tree in the middle of the island that has certain leaves you can chop off. I'm like, oh well, that's clear as day, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it started getting dark, and I couldn't do anything to make it not be dark, so I just sort of had to sit there in the dark because I couldn't do anything because it was really dark. I was like, oh, this is fun.
And then, as it turns out, if you eat too many coconuts, you shit yourself.
Cool.
Found that out the hard way.
You just sat there gorging on coconuts. I love my coconut. Oh no! Quick in the sea!
That's exactly it. Like my health, my food and stamina and my water meters had all dropped down. So it was like, oh yeah, you drink coconut and that'll get you water. And I'm like, okay, cool, coconut, cool. Oh, if I chop it in half, I can eat the coconut. Cool, chop that up. That'll get my food up. That'll just like last me for a couple of hours or days or whatever. And then suddenly my character is just like crouched down. There's just like a, and I'm like, did I legit just shit myself? Because I ate too much of like one certain food and it got me out. And the same if you don't fully cook your food as well. Like, I found out the hard way. I didn't know if I had a time limit. There's no timer on like whether food is cooked or how long it cooked. It just comes up saying meat and then cooked meat. So then after I leaving like crab on the fire for like a couple of minutes, I thought I should be fine to eat. Took it up, ate it. No, then my character starts throwing up as well, quite violently. it's like.
I mean, to be fair, if you were stranded on a desert island, you're not going to have a handy little cooking timer to tell you when something's cooked, are you? I mean, when you're killing crabs, they don't come out of a packet that says 10 minutes on over open flames and you'll be good.
I thought you opened up the shell and it was written on the inside.
Oh! Should have checked. Damn it.
Bloody
it's a fun idea, though, isn't it? Like a desert island simulator. It's a cool idea, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, like, at the same time, we have seen things like this before in things like The Forest, which is a larger map. It is quite freaky, yes, but you clearly haven't tried to swim to another island without making a raft or losing your raft, and then having a shark coming up and trying to eat your butt.
I haven't had a shark trying to eat my butt yet, no.
Just make sure you've eaten loads of coconuts beforehand so you can scare it away.
Well, like a squid.
Kind of like the opposite of chumming the water. Shit the water. Shark goes away. The shark's like coming along. He's like, oh, wow. Have some hygiene standards, man. God. Ah.
This untainted barrier reef around these islands has now been tainted.
Human butt stink. What about you, Rob? Have you been playing anything? Because you teased us earlier on with Total War, Warhammer 2, Twisted and Twilight DLC, which I know because I'm reading it off of the
I was
notes
going to say,
here.
you've read that, you didn't remember at all.
And you were saying if Ben lets me have the time to talk about it.
Well,
Sadly, though, Rob, we have gone on quite a long time now, and we're going to have to wrap up the show. So thank you, everyone. No, go on.
You bastard. No. It is the long teased expansion pack. Obviously, COVID this year has caused some delays for CA or Creative Assembly to bring out expansion packs. They've been doing lots of stuff with Total War Troy as well. This is a long awaited update to the Wood Elves race pack, and then we get kind of the the flip side of that with the Skaven as well. So the Wood Elves have kind of been reinvented, which is really nice. I can see Ben just dying, but he's given me the airtime, so I'm going to use it. The Wood Elves they have an interesting mechanic, because obviously in Total War games, you're trying to conquer the world, aren't you? Not if you're the Wood Elves. You conquer specific areas and you hold them. The rest of the world you don't give a shit about.
Is it just the wooded areas?
Funnily enough, yes.
Oh.
We couldn't see that one coming. So obviously the Wood Elves representing life and existence. And then the flip side of that is you have the 3-armed human-sized rat called Throt the Unclean that has a never-ending hunger, and he wants to eat the Queen of the Wood Elves. Like, puree her and slurp her like a milkshake.
I like Throt already. He sounds cool. He sounds like a go-getter. I like it.
So there's campaigns based on those two things for both races, and it's really good. We've had some balance changes as well, so I've been playing some campaigns and going through on that, which has been really good fun.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well, I'm glad. Look, it's one step better than buying the silly miniatures and painting them. So I do appreciate that you're not quite that much of a nerd.
I have some miniatures. See that box right there? Where my finger is? Yeah, I got some miniatures.
God. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Experience Kills. I hope you enjoyed the symposium on marketing in the middle of that, which basically it turned into a lecture about the dangers of the internet. So I do hope that was fun for all the listeners. Oh dear.
Oh, the viewing numbers on this one are going to be interesting.
It's good. Just watching the numbers fall. It's going to be good. But this was meant to be a relatively quick one. We've gone on for nearly an hour, nearly 2 hours actually. So I hope you enjoyed that. I have been Ben. You can find me at DIYE on Twitter, and you can find Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs on Twitter, and you can find Cameron at Camelot on Twitter. You can find us as a collective at Experience Kills on the Twitter sphere. Please head over to YouTube to give us a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I suspect, due to the length of these podcasts, you're not watching this as a video form, you'll probably listen to this as a podcast. And so in that case, we would really appreciate the like and subscribe on YouTube if you can mosey on over there as well. And if you aren't checking this out as a podcast and you're like, man, that was a long episode, Jesus Christ, who has time to do that? You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere a good podcast can be found, including your Alexa device. If you're, say, in the kitchen, doing some Christmas baking, like I know Rob's going to be doing, you can just say, Alexa, play Experience Kills. And I said it like that because I've got an Alexa device behind me, and I didn't want to say it in a way that it would recognise it and then start playing last week's episode while recording this week's. That would have been very, very confusing. I hope you've enjoyed this. So what was that?
The inception of Experience.
Yeah, just episodes within episodes within episodes within episodes. It is almost like we do the same thing every week, because we do. So I hope you're enjoying this as much as we have fun making it. Cameron looks like he's kind of bored now and wants to go away. I understand. So until next time, when Richard's going to be back, and we're going to finally talk about Darksiders Genesis. Next week, I believe that's on the docket, and obviously Cyberpunk will be on the docket. I know me and Richard are both going to be playing that, and then we'll be doing some kind of giveaway. It'll probably be Twitter based, so get your subscribes into Experience Kills now, ready for that. So yeah, have a good week, everyone. Nearly Christmas.
Bye-bye.
It was the week before Cyberpunk, and there were punks all about. Some had haircuts. Some like to shout.
This is the point where I wish I could cut the recording.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.